Welcome to the Town of Richmond Water and Sewer Commission meeting for October the 16th, 2023. Any public comments? We got one, we got Duncan, so
Here's Steve now. Oh, Steve.
there's Steve. Okay, good. So seeing that there's no public comments, are there any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda? No. All right, moving right along. First order of business is approval of the minutes from October the 2nd, 2023. So do I have a motion to accept the minutes from October the 2nd, 2023?
This is David, so moved.
Have a second?
Second.
30 seconds. So comments, changes, deletions. Oh, everybody's happy?
Ecstatic.
All right, ecstatic. So is there no changes? Motion's been made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Yeah, this is Jay. I.
Aaron, I abstain.
David, I. Oh, yeah, actually, technically speaking, I should abstain. Change that to abstain.
2 abstains. David says aye.
Bart, I.
Morgan, aye. The motion passes.
That was close.
Yeah.
Well,
The
I was trying
abstains
to be
almost-
truthful. I was trying to read that
The
87-page study and I hadn't gotten to the minutes yet.
yes,
But
Oh.
this one,
the abstains almost ruled the night there. So, okay, next we have one warrant, no purchase orders, just one warrant. So do I have a motion to approve warrant number 20014 for the amount of $42,538.76?
Bergen, this is David. Move to approve.
Have a second?
this is Aaron, I'll second.
All right, discussion, questions? All right, so no discussions or changes, calling for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. This is Jay. I.
Aaron, I.
David, I. Bart, I.
Morgan, aye. Motion moved, approved. All right, you want to pass that around? We'll start signing. Thank you. That, so next up. Oh, I still your pen. Oh, here it is right here. Review a list of water and wastewater items to be repaired or replaced. Steve, you want to address this one for us?
For about the last month and a half, it's been all about the press. Really has. The plant. We can't function without it. It is down to less than 50% usability. Waiting, I called Fournier a couple of times last week. I've called them twice today and talked with them. They're supposed to be putting together an estimate for us. I think you included this in the
report, yes.
the report that we had done by Fournier's press expert. There's a lot wrong. I mean, what made me feel good was he said, look, been doing this for almost 15 years and you guys are running it the best that thing can run. It's just worn out. And a lot of pieces and parts have been done away with over the years, not replaced, not maintained. It's in rough shape. I mean, go ahead. Any questions?
How much would it cost us to get it fixed? Do we buy a new one at this point or do we
No.
buy parts to make the old one work?
There's supposed to give us 2 ways to go. One is the cost of a new one. And one is what it will cost to fix it. The cost of the fixing is going to be roughly what they have told me and this is just ballpark, like $120,000.
But this is the most vital piece of equipment over there right now.
Well, if we don't have a press, we can't take septage. And if we don't have a press, we then have to pay to get rid of our sludge.
Okay.
And we pay to get rid of it anyway, but we use septage to offset the costs of that right now.
So getting a new one, how much would that cost in comparison?
The ballpark on that was $270,000.
So in your expert opinion, and I mean seriously, revamping an old one to try to get more years out of it. At some point you're like, it would have been smarter just to buy a new one. Which do you think would make more sense?
Right now, I am really relying on the engineers and the engineer study.
The 20-year study?
Yeah, they have this report. They're gonna get the costs than we do. And there might be something better out there that we should go to. I mean, I'm not sold on this press alone. There are other types of presses, a centrifuge press, which is a little more money. But this press cannot press septage straight. A centrifuge press, I have been told, can press whatever you put into it.
Okay, so the technology has advanced a lot,
Yeah,
and it would be, one could say it would be foolish to just, because we've got it, marry ourselves to that
yeah.
technology.
I'm not married to any piece of
Right.
equipment over there.
Absolutely.
I'm relying on the engineers to help me make the decisions on where we're going. For the short term, I mean, we're down to I took 30,000 gallons of septage today. I mean, we should have been able to take 60, but I just can't.
So at the rate that we're not taking septage, that's gonna add up to real money pretty quickly.
Bard?
Just looking backwards to how we got here, is it accurate to state that the current condition and circumstances are at least partially the result of inadequate maintenance in the past?
Yes.
So
When I got a hold of the press expert we did a Zoom call, because I was like, I cannot make this thing run. He's like, I'll walk you through it. You put this number in, and with what you've got, it should work. And I'm like, I put this number in, and he's like, all right, show me the press. And we walk through it all, and he's like, okay, that's not gonna work. Because there was just too much that's been done away with.
So, a sort of related follow-up question as we make a decision about, whereas you make a decision about, the path forward in terms of a replacement, refurbishment, replace this model, different model. You know, thinking of people who might have old vehicles they use for replacement parts, is there any potential benefit of using anything here for replacement parts, or is it just so old you go, let's probably be done with it?
The press expert did not even know if they still made parts for this one.
Okay.
He had to go back to Fournier and investigate. Yes, they still do make the parts for it, because he wouldn't even he would have said it was a total scrap at the point. But he took all the information, serial numbers. They do still make the parts, but he's like, I haven't seen a press this old.
Well, given that, it sounds like a new one would be the way to go.
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean, like I said, Holt Tanner is aware of everything that we're dealing with here. I am trying just to limp this press through because we need it for the very least, so we don't have to pay to get rid of our wasting from the town. That being said, I am literally, I spend just about all of my time making this thing work. I come back between 11 and 12 to 1 in the morning because there's always been there seems to be an issue at that time. I can't figure it out, but it seems to be, I wake up at that time, check the SCADA system at home and the press is down. If I don't come in and make it and get it working again at that time, we won't have enough pressed in the morning, even to to deal with our waste from the town. So it's a balancing act. To Bart's question, we finally unlocked the old superintendent's computer last week. And this is his 20-year asset management capital reserve fund plan for wastewater and for water. It was updated in 2022. And I don't know where he was getting his numbers from. The money he quotes to replace parts and things in the plant, even at that time, I can't believe he was using what numbers he used.
How much did he have in there?
Well, right here, this bottom line, 2020, 2015, 10 years to 2025, when he says the press was going to need some work done on it. He roughly, just for the parts, he roughly put in $20,000. That doesn't cover one screen. We have 4. I mean, the tank mixer, and this was updated after we put that last tank mixer in for the water system. That was, he quoted the replacement at $16,000. It's 20
something, 23.
yeah, almost 24,000 we had to pay for the replacement.
Hmm. You're gonna have
Is
to
this the
redo that.
interim's report or the other superintendent?
Other superintendent.
Okay.
I don't believe the interim had access to the computer. I just got Simple Roots to unlock it last week.
Aaron?
I had 2 questions back about the
Press?
press.
Sure.
If we go with a new press, will it be something that can be retrofitted to whatever else we do with the other 20-year upgrade?
And that's
stuff?
why I'm relying
On the engineer.
on the engineers.
That's great.
Yeah,
And then my other question was, is there any way to, like, if we didn't take septage for a day, would that give?
we already doing that. I have to.
Well, I was good. Well, my question was, could we get the schedule so that you're not coming in at 12 or 1 in the
Nope.
morning? Could we like get it staggered so you were?
I've tried everything. Last Friday, the press tends to run pretty good during the day while you're there, and then it doesn't when you're not.
Okay.
But it's constantly, you're constantly there.
Okay.
Just checking on everything to do with it. Like, I don't know who's calling on.
But you getting up in the middle of the night is not a sustainable option.
No, and my wife says so too.
We'll bring her along.
I've offered, she does not want to come to the wastewater.
If the engineers say buy a new one, do you have any earthly idea how long it would take to get one?
I do not. I'm hopefully when Fournier sends us our quotes, there will be a time frame in there.
Does the cold weather affect this
No.
any more or less? Okay, good.
To Bart's point, would it make sense to put feelers out to see if somebody's replacing, scrapping, getting rid of a similar press that we could cannibalize for parts?
We could, but there's only 2 of these type presses in Vermont. And Brattleboro is,
But as far away as you can get and still be in Vermont.
yeah. Brattleboro is the other. They have 2 4-channel presses. Their 4-channel presses are in immaculate shape. They have been well cared for and taken care of. We went down and looked at them. They change screens every 18 months on a schedule. One of the channels is taken completely apart, new screens put on, and They have a whole cycle of that they've been doing 20 years, I guess, almost. But their presses and their PLCs that go with them. Ours, the press guy, Isaac, he's like, oh, I've only ever seen one of these. It's an old, it's not a touch screen or anything. It's an old, you got a key through and he knew how to run it, but he's like, I've only ever seen one other.
Is that like the CRS box on a robot?
Yeah, kind of.
So if the sort of planned maintenance cycle is replace the screens every 18 months, when was the last time the screens on our system were replaced?
Never. It's that is, and you can't really compare us to Brattleboro because Brattleboro, they fill a tractor trailer with cake or out of the press every 19 hours.
Oh, wow.
And it takes us, well, we did it the other day. We did one in 5 days. And that was with me coming back at 1 and then coming back at 5. To make sure that the press was running nonstop for 24 hours a day. But so, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to limp us through till we can make some decisions. Right now it's in Fournier's hands to get us some information and that's all going to the engineers have this report already. And so, yeah.
Because I'm new to this town government business, if they call you back tomorrow and they say, here's your reports, you guys need to make a decision, will you call like
Well, I'll forward,
emergency
I mean,
meeting of the
I'll
water
forward,
sewer so we can vote on it to get this going faster than 2
Right.
weeks?
Well,
Like,
I think,
how does that
But I
work?
think the problem is still is we're waiting for the 20-year study to be.
well, we're not, they're aware that this is, I mean. So let me backtrack a little bit. When we started to have problems with the press in early September. And we had a meeting with the engineers. I had called Fournier and they told me their press expert couldn't come down to look at our press. He lives in Maine. He couldn't get to us before early December. I relayed that to the engineers. They made a phone call. I had a salesman from Fournier within 2 days. And then within a week, the press expert showed up. So they really laid a lot. They basically told Fournier if they didn't come down and help us, they were never putting another press in another system that they designed. And that got their attention. So the engineers are well aware that this is a problem because without getting rid of our solids out of the system, we're in danger of violating our permit for discharge.
So to Aaron's point, if we get the word back and the word is replace it. And we want to get this done right away, this would clearly be more than we would have to have an authorization to do it. So could we do a special meeting just for the purpose of approving this?
Yeah, we could do a special meeting once we're ready to make a recommendation, and I think there's a couple of paths, right? If they come back and say it's 120,000 to repair it, then, you know, that might be a single source type conversation, or we wouldn't need to do our procurement policy because it's one supplier. If it's a replacement at 200,000 plus, we probably need to do an RFP, and that's going to involve engineers helping us to write up technical specifications for that and doing a sealed bid process.
Well, my thought is that, and I'm not an engineer, but that we know they don't apparently make parts. If we're able to get this thing working again, we may have used the last parts that will ever exist for it. And it doesn't sound like a good plan to spend $120,000 and then in 2 months have to buy a whole new one.
I mean, essentially that is my fault. I mean, my thought. The press works. I wouldn't have a problem putting in a new one. and upgrading the parts that we need, you know, he's like, you need to have, there's a recirculation valve. It's a 3-way valve controlled by air and stuff. And it's a pivotal part to it has not been functionable. Alan has told me when he was here, he had never used it. So that's over 10 years that part, which is pivotal to making the whole thing work, hasn't been there. And they don't even do a 3-way valve because they're so expensive. Now they use two-way valves and control it with air and stuff. But yeah, there's just so much that's been done to this press that I don't know if we can really save it myself.
Okay, you and then I get to go.
Okay. So is there any, I realize it would cost a little bit of money because the engineer would have to be involved, but could we just start the bid process for a new
Well, we don't,
thing? What?
we don't know what to get. It has to go.
But that's what I mean, like, if the engineers can tell us what to get, can we just start the bid process? And then, I mean, worst case scenario, they say, oh, actually, we decided we found some parts, it's only gonna cost 40 grand to fix it. Then we just say, thank you for your bid. We will keep you in mind when we do our 20-year upgrade.
Sort of, I mean, I agree, that's not a bad idea, because even if we fix it, I mean, if you go through the pictures and look at it, it needs to be replaced.
Yeah,
You can't, it's like that 30-year-old road bike you keep, you know, it's got 6 gears on it, right?
Like
But-
Isaac from Fournier said, you know, he's like, if I came in here and this thing was running awesome, you know, it had been in here with basically no maintenance for 20 years. He's like, I'd be bringing everybody here to see how this thing is still working so well. But he's like, this thing is done.
Yeah.
So why don't we ask the engineers to start drawing up
Okay.
couple specs if they can? Then we can put
Yeah.
that through an RFP, and then, yeah, we can get an RFP out without the commission voting on that. Put that RFP out. Hopefully, I mean, they might tell us they need more information.
Yeah.
But let's start that conversation. I think that's a good idea.
I can talk with her in the morning.
Yeah. and
That's
we-
fine.
We have a contingency going.
Right, and just one point is, breweries actually use centrifuges.
Yeah.
Right, because they get every drop of water out. They're
Sure, yeah.
incredibly efficient. They probably use a lot of energy doing that, but they're very efficient.
Yeah,
So
they
I was
do.
intrigued to hear that, so I don't know if they could write 2 sets of RFPs, or do you think the RFP doesn't matter, we just need this, we'll go out to centrifuges, or?
That's
Yeah.
a good question.
I mean, basically this replaced the plate press years ago, which I don't know of anybody that has one. So this was an upgrade. And then shortly after these were brought around, then came the centrifuges,
Mhm.
and those took off really strongly. And I mean, most places have centrifuges now.
Right,
But
so,
they are expensive and they are expensive to run.
right, yeah, I
They're
think they
expensive
use a
to
lot of
maintain.
electricity, so. But anyway, okay,
Yeah, but so. Sorry, but yeah, it all the time has been to keep that going, plus keep the plant running.
let's hope we can get some parts here quick to at least operating a little better while we work on an RFP.
Yeah, I mean, I don't foresee that.
Mm.
Basically, one channel we can't use at all. And the other side, Isaac said, well, it's running, but I could not tell you when it will stop.
Good.
Yeah, every day.
I don't know if there's anything else within
The mixer is for the water tank is on its way.
right,
As soon as we have possession of it here, we will get in contact with the divers and have them come up to install it. While they're here, they're gonna do a cleaning, and they're also gonna do some videoing of the inside of the tank for Tyler, so we can get that.
Morgan, can I just
Okay.
ask that we get a video showing of the inside of the tank?
No, I mean,
I actually, there
Yeah,
have been so many questions about the tank. It would be nice to get a guided
Oh,
tour of
that's
the
true.
inside of the tank after
I do have one,
the dust is settled.
I've got some scuba gear you can borrow.
I do have a DVD from the last time they were in there last October.
a DVD, what's that?
We can play it in my minivan.
There you go.
Okay,
Well, I mean, everybody gives you to you on a thumb drive, but they gave me a DVD.
okay.
But that was when they were in there to replace the
Would
last
answer
mix.
a lot of,
My real point, Morgan, is the ongoing comments that we've heard and discussions we've had about leakage and damage.
Correct.
Like, we like to associate those on the outside with what we see on the inside.
yeah,
I'd be interested to see it
you
too.
might put an extra blast out to the community that's interested in that if they want to come see it.
Movie night.
Movie night, yeah.
Movie night is-
Boy Scouts can come and sell popcorn.
It'd be great if we had Tyler to help walk us through.
Yeah,
To say,
no.
at this point, this is what you're seeing here,
right.
because I wonder what I'm looking at.
Well, it's a big concrete tank full of water.
That's right.
Exactly. And
No, it's-
Tyler can make that more interesting.
Yeah, that's right. It's like reading, reading an X-ray or something, whatever.
So, other things that are on the agenda right now with winter coming. The line that, the line that feeds the dewatering building from underneath. From the digester to the dewatering building, that has been plugged most of the summer. We had hoped to get the digester cleaned out of its solids in our progression through. We're not gonna be able to do that, so in order to be able to run the press this winter, I have to get that line cleaned out. So we're hopefully towards the end of this week, P&P will have time to come. We're gonna vac out around the outlet. And then they're gonna run a snake back
Roto-rooter?
through basically a road and blast the line back out. So we can get that, so we can run all winter, hopefully. The other thing that,
Is there any chance when they do that, that the pressure would damage the pipe?
There's always a chance.
there's always a chance, but it's it is ductile iron, so I
Okay.
mean, it's not plastic.
Okay.
Yeah, and they've done it. I've been there 2 years and Kendall did it once and Alan did it once, so.
Okay,
Yeah, it hasn't. Our hope was we were gonna get all the solids out of the digester. The other thing is, it came to my knowledge when we did the water meter readings. That for some reason, the plant, the water plant, not the water plant, but the wastewater plant. Is 3 times its usage.
Leak.
Well, we have done a quick. The problem is it has started it was there in the July reading. And I never was aware of it. It was, nobody ever told us. I didn't know that there was a problem. It was there in July. It was almost 3 times its normal use in July. And in September's reading, it was roughly half. So it had come down some, which I don't understand, but
Problem with the meter?
we've looked into that a little. We read the meter every day. And I haven't seen, I went back through all the way through to the first of the year. And I haven't seen a ginormous jump in the daily readings. So I really don't know. It's part of what we collect every day. So I haven't been able to figure out where it is.
A leak would show, wouldn't it?
You would hope at this amount, it would show somewhere,
So
and
this-
we haven't seen any.
So I'm sorry, this is water for like toilets and stuff?
It's water we use water a lot of places throughout the whole
Hosing.
plant.
stuff,
Yeah, hoses. We actually in dewatering, we use water to wash the press. It has a cycle of you're supposed to every 24 hours wash it.
I'd ask if you've seen a wet spot in the ground, but
No, that was the first thing I did when I came back after going through the meter readings with Connie is look, Good, so the water comes into the basement by the pumps. And then it distributes back out through the building and over to dewatering. So if we can't obviously find a leak or something, the next thing that we're gonna do is I'm gonna install water meters in each of the buildings and start to try to find out where it is in the
Are there
whole
check
stru-
valves you can shut off so you can see?
There are, but I mean, the meter doesn't have a spinner. It's a bigger meter, the main meter. So it's a process of, we're trying to go by process of elimination.
But if you put the spinners on the different smaller
The
lines.
smaller meters, we'd be able to tell,
Yeah.
you know, shows if you flush a toilet, it'll spin and you'll know it's, you know.
So it strikes me to do that, you'd have to isolate use to meter usage, like everything's turned off, there's supposed to be no water going in here,
Yeah.
but it's still reading flow. The other thing that came to mind, given the discussion about the press, is it possible that there are inline valves where they're like leaking into the system where you can actually see it? And the valve
It,
isn't working properly?
Most of the valves on the press are stainless steel. And they're in really good shape. I'm not saying that they're actually leaking, because there is one section that is an air valve. But for the most part, when the press is not operational, you would see water flowing through it. And we don't see that. So I don't, my gut tells me it's not in dewatering, but it might be in septage receiving, because this grit screen uses a lot of water to rinse, and that's all solenoid valves controlled. We don't hear a lot of water running out there. But this also goes to, in the 20-year upgrade, we have asked them, I know, I hate to keep going back, but we have asked them, because we actually make a water that we could use and not have to buy clean water.
I was gonna ask.
Oh,
We have asked them to see about including a reuse system for, which is pretty much standard on most water treatment plants now.
To reuse your own gray water.
Well, essentially, it's the same water that's going to the Winooski. It's
Yeah.
crystal clear.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
and that, I mean, that could be used in everything but the faucets that you would draw water out of, really. I mean, it could be used in the toilets, it could be used everywhere.
We should probably be moving.
Yeah, I know.
No, we should probably just
you
have a
have to
meeting where
dig
we
to
talk
look
about.
for a
it.
leak.
No.
do know that you have to apply for a permit being in. the
Oh, yeah,
water
I know that.
district, Or you'll get a $500 fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Truly, I love.
no. Equipment.
On top of the money that we're paying for the water.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, what caught my attention was, and I'm not. It was $21,000 worth of water.
Okay. Let's see.
Are we on item B?
Yeah, I was going to review the water data first. Can I do
I think
that?
I have no objection.
Okay, all right, so let's look at water report next. Good job. I see 2 days of low levels of fluoride, which probably was.
Share the
Yeah,
document.
it's probably
Yeah.
worth putting up on screen.
I'm sorry,
I'll do it. Give me a second.
Yeah.
2 days when the fluoride was low, probably was when you were,
No, it's when when we have to mix a new batch.
right,
Like today will be an example. So basically, we don't turn the pump on, we mix up a batch of fluoride and we let it settle,
right,
and then we turn the pump on.
right, okay. And then just one day, the Looks like the free chlorine was a little low, but again, probably something was being changed about that time. 7.
No, the free chlorine, the low level that you see there, that is out of the tap at the water treatment plant.
Okay,
And this is why I struggle with the fact that you would expect that free chlorine to be a lot less all the time if there's a major leak down there.
okay.
You would just expect that, but because it would be being used up. And so I don't know. If you look at that 21st, so that the 20th, we probably shut and I'd have to look at the actual data because we keep the record. The 20th, we shut the system off, or it probably ran out of fluoride at that time. We mixed it up on the 20th, so that was not, the pump was not on that day. We didn't use it very much water. You can see it was only 31. And we used more water out of the tank. And that's why the chlorine level was lower, because the tank water tends to dissipate chlorine because it's sitting there all the time, unless we're, circulating it. So that's my explanation on why that was so very low.
Okay,
But I would also look at the number that the state, I think, is really looking at is the entry point free chlorine. And
Yeah.
that day it was 1.09.
right.
Yeah.
So we're still, I mean, I think a 1 day anomaly, even in the other column, isn't that bad. But even in that column, we're still in complete compliance every day.
I'm pretty sure I have to call Matt back at the state, but I'm pretty sure he's gonna allow us not to have to report from the tap anymore.
Oh, at the house, the facility?
Yeah,
Okay,
because they're more interested in what's going in
At the source.
at the source.
right. That's what makes sense.
I think he told us he was only gonna require us for like 3 months,
Yeah.
and I haven't gotten the exact answer from him, but
Yeah, I think it was around like June that we might be able to lift it. I mean,
Yeah.
with flooding, got distracted. I
Right.
think we need to follow back up to see if we can.
so I think in the near future, the free at the tap at the water house, he's gonna let us do away with.
At the water house or at the treatment?
It's at the wastewater
Right,
treatment
okay.
plant.
Okay, good.
No, everything is sampled at the water house currently.
Okay, great. Okay. Any other questions,
No.
comments? Thank you. Moving right along, we'll go back to B, review of wastewater treatment facility 20-year evaluation.
It's some really good reading.
I'm working on it.
Well,
Yes.
it's really comprehensive, and I think it's like Morgan and I were talking before the meeting. It's really a great explanation from start to finish of how the
Yeah.
facility works. Obviously, there's a lot that they documented that kind of is wearing out and will need to be repaired. But I think it's a great start to see kind of where in the process of wearing out each piece is, what priorities we have to set. Obviously, we know influent pumps and press, the beginning and the end of the system are sort of most critical. I think that they're gonna have that study completely finalized by the end of December is what they have to do. So this has been submitted to the state as their 30% progress report. I'm not sure how they measure 30%. It seems like they're about 80% of the way through their time, but they're gonna have things buttoned up here pretty soon by the
Yeah,
end of the
we're-
year.
I mean, since this has come out, they've been in contact with me almost every day. Wanting more information, more data. One of the things that came out of kind of this research was that the chart recorder for effluent discharge was not allowing it. It was the parameters that were put into it were not allowing it to monitor flow. It had a limit.
Mm.
So like during the flood, if we got to 650 million gallons of discharge in a day, that was the max. So it would kind of plateau and that would not go anymore. We had to get the control guy to come back and set, the engineers wanted it set at 1.5 million instead of the 650. And so we had that done and they want the data for the month of October. And then we're doing that. They also wanted some data from our aeration tanks. So, and that was, they wanted some BODs and some TSSs. And so we took samples and sent them to Endyne and they're doing the testing.
Great.
So we're working really closely with these guys. A matter of fact, before I came over here, they had called, they wanted some serial numbers off some pieces of equipment and stuff. And I was getting that for them. We're giving them whatever they want to get it's really moving forward now since we've got this.
Thank you.
Yeah, like it's gonna be pretty comprehensive. It already looks like it's gonna be. very
Yeah,
comprehensive.
I was really impressed. I'm really happy with Kristen and Amy. I really think it's an asset that Kristen did the original upgrade 20 years ago. It's kind of nice to have somebody who knows what the plant was designed to work and is trying to work us back to, the way it's supposed to be.
Okay, great.
We also have located every manhole that we have, and they have done an asset as part of the collection system. They've GPS located all that stuff. They've done the inspections according to their thing, and they're supposed to give us back all that too in the near future here. Every manhole was identified and upgraded, including the one on second base.
How many do we have?
Over 200, well, over 210 now.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, you would not think it.
Yeah,
But-
no,
No, I really wouldn't.
Yes.
I was like
15.
58.
Yeah,
Wow.
there's a lot of manholes and there's a lot of them that were buried, which are no longer buried. Yeah.
We'll have a map, a topo map of where all the manholes are.
Yeah, we have roughly that now. The nice thing is that their GPS locator is like a $10,000 one, so it's pinpoint accurate. So they basically, what they do is if this is a manhole cover, they start by pinning it right on the center and getting that exact location. When we started using diamond maps here in the town, they were using just a tablet, which has a 20-foot accuracy. And a lot of the manholes are not located on diamond maps where they actually are. So this information is supposed to be transferable into our diamond maps. So it's going to give us a pretty good, and it gives us a baseline of right now, this is what your manhole is. This is it. They do a grade, they do measurements, pipe inlet, outlet, everything. So it's been a pretty good, I'm been happy with that. And that's why we had 7 manholes that we had to find, and we found them and they came back and finished that up last week.
Right.
So now we can organize manhole tours of Richmond. Make some extra money.
Absolutely, really. You could lead the charge, like, let's hop down this manhole and we'll come up at number
Sure.
53.
That's actually illegal if someone's not with you
Oh,
that is authorized to be in the manhole.
okay.
I don't think
Scratch that.
most of the pipes are 8 inches or 6 inches,
Oh,
so
that would be-
there's not gonna be much crossing back and forth.
Maybe we should look in the future when this is finished, just dedicating one whole meeting to this report, right?
Yeah.
And we could easily probably use a couple meetings. There's so much. One thing I was just noticing in here was design criteria versus current loads. But then there's a calculation that exceeds our design criteria. And I'm like, I don't understand the math. I don't have to, but it seems like that's thing we,
Basically, it tells you that the plant is actually running I mean, for some of the stuff, it can handle more than it was designed for,
right,
which is a good thing. I
right.
mean, it was over designed.
So anyway,
And,
good.
and we don't have a creamery. If we had a creamery in this town, it would, I mean, I know from being in Heinsberg, it is devastating to a collection system and plant operation.
Probably have to make the creamery put in a huge pre-treatment facility. Okay.
Update on staffing is next.
Yes,
We need staff.
I
okay.
know. It says that you're interviewing people this week and you're making offers.
I
Or
hope
you
so.
Interviewed and you're making offers this week.
We've interviewed several, and I think we need to make some decisions.
Any have prior experience?
Huh?
Do they have prior experience?
Most everybody does not. We have one candidate that does have some experience as a press operator.
Hey.
He basically grew up in the wastewater industry.
Then you could do your job.
Well, he knows nothing about the Fournier press. He is a centrifugal press operator, but basically had operated one for about 15 years. It was actually a mobile press, which they would go and dewater lagoon systems all over the United States.
So we're hoping to maybe have somebody hired by next meeting or,
Yeah, we're gonna talk tomorrow and
9 o'clock.
figure out at 9 o'clock.
okay. Well, that's good.
Review the candidates and figure out what we're gonna do for some offers, hopefully.
Well, that's very
Yeah.
positive.
That's
Good.
very.
Yeah,
that's
so hopefully we can land one of these folks. Be
Me
very
too.
helpful.
Good.
Very helpful.
Because 2 weeks ago, I didn't make it to the meeting because Brad was sick, I was sick,
Oh, boy.
and it's rough when we're both sick. And
Yeah.
Yeah, don't do that. Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
in the audience.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just curious if our town is doing any kind of incentives, like a sign-on bonus, if you stay for 6 months or a year, you get this much, just to entice them to get our positions filled. I mean, we have a lot of work we want to get done. And I'm just wondering I mean, we've got plenty of money in the budget in our water sewer.
I feel
wondering-
we've had a lot of candidates,
Yeah.
more than I was surprised at the number of candidates that we had.
Weren't there like 17 or something?
It's even more than that now.
Yeah,
Um,
it
we're
sounds like that's not needed at this time.
Yeah, I mean, we just have
I think
to make a decision.
Yeah, I think the hard part is gonna be trying to figure out where on the pay grade to put some of these folks, because some of them don't have a lot of extremely relevant experience, so. With them an operator in training, but they've been doing, mechanics for 20 years. That's not gonna really work for them because the early ranges of that pay scale are pretty low. So I think that's what we need to figure out, like, where can we legitimately bump people up on pay range based on previous experience and make sure that that translates well.
Right.
So I
Okay.
think that's gonna be a lot of our talk tomorrow is how do we place people and how do we make a reasonable offer with staying in the guidelines?
Just one quick comment, picking up on Diane's point and recognizing Denise, sorry. Denise's comment is really specific to Water Sewer Commission, because that's who we are tonight. But it's also relevant to the rest of town. So one of the things I was thinking, in state government, there's this concept of hire into range, where you hire people above the starting wage based on justifiable circumstances, so.
I mean, I felt really good about the number of applicants we got. I don't know how come it works this way. Heinsberg is in the same boat. They have one operator. They need 3. And they've advertised several times with nobody responding. But yet, when we try to hire police, we don't get any,
They get on a good.
and they can get all the police they want. So I don't know. I mean, it's just weird that happens, but we just need to make a decision and get some letters out there this week, to get some people on board.
Okay. We're gonna skip to F. I think probably that's contracting for water meters is probably just ongoing still?
Ongoing, yeah, unfortunately. I know, they sent over a mark. So we gave them a markup document. We met with them, said, all right, sounds like we're fairly close. Send us back this document with what you can agree to, what you can't agree to. They sent it back in a format that was like not really obvious. So we asked them like, just accept what you can accept, leave everything else, and then we'll talk. So we're waiting on that. So yeah, it continues to drag. I apologize.
No.
We're trying to move forward.
All right, and then the NBRC grant extension, I say it's been approved.
And approved.
We have a 1-year extension.
Yep. So we've got some more time there.
Okay, good. Jumping back to Gateway Sewer Expansion, CE. Who would like to take this one forward?
I'll start away. It's deja vu all over again.
Yeah.
I thought it said that there has not been movement on the project.
Well, so here's what I know.
Okay,
The REIT said that at this point, they are not interested. They are contemplating alternative development plans for part of their property that does not require water sewer.
Right.
Then separate water and sewer into separate lines, which is of course appropriate. We have a water line that goes into the school property. I don't know if what the easement says, if that would allow us to extend the water line down the hill. We don't have an easement for a sewage line. So if you follow these lines from the top of the hill to the bottom, it starts with the school. Do we have easements that would allow it? Richmond Land Trust, the REITs met with Richmond Land Trust this week, I think, yesterday, but anyway, very recently. And the land trust is now moving forward with proposal that would allow the town, I believe, both lines as a separate easement. If the town were to end up owning lines through that again, if you keep going, we'd have to have an easement at the REIT property to access and maintain any line, water, sewer, or both. At this point in time, what I know, they seem to express more interest in water than sewer, but the sewer was like, not at this point, maybe someday. Which doesn't bode well for the life of the NBRC grant. But given our history, this could play out in a variety of ways. It really hinges on what is their interest. They are private owners. As we know, the rest of the customers cannot and will not pay the cost of extending this. So in some ways, while we're still talking, the fundamental circumstances of a pro forma business plan have not changed. Who's going to put money other than NBRC towards this work? That said, it seems prudent perhaps to continue with a conversation with RLP, assuming we don't really invest significant beyond like minimal money on it or time, to what would an easement say so it's there if and when we need it. But if it bogs down or becomes costly, it would appear to me it's probably not, as one member of the commission, worth investing time, a lot of time or money on, because it would be authority to do something for which there's no actual funding or connection. It's also clear to me other people in the gateway are interested in both systems, but they don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to build it either. So it still sort of sits there, is what it looks like to me.
Right. So there's the water easement with the school, right? And whether they would
I've
even,
never seen it, so I don't know.
well, it's an agreement is what it is.
Yeah, we have an agreement. I don't believe we have an actual.
It's not, we don't actually have an
We would
easement, we have
need-
an agreement.
Not-
And if we're interested in pursuing the water, we would need to probably talk with the attorney then.
So it depends what the agreement says. If the agreement says that we have the right to maintain a line for the use of the schools, that has one level of authority. If it's agreement to have access to the line to support use by the schools and other property owners downstream, if it doesn't say that, it would have to say that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would think maybe, well,
Okay,
maybe it's premature. Oh, we got 4 minutes.
Yeah.
What else is there to cover?
Items
That's probably
Agendas
enough for
for
now
next
for that
items?
topic.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So items for next meeting, which is November the sixth,
It's,
five
oh,
Mondays and.
Unless we need to call an emergency meeting or a special meeting, which
Yeah.
we'll let
Just
you know.
follow up on the press situation clearly.
yeah,
Right,
That's pressing.
press,
It's pressing.
follow up on staffing. Hopefully that's meeting a new person that works here.
water meters,
Tacos.
What?
Did we say tacos for the new staff?
Gateway,
They weren't here for the flood.
gateway.
gateway
Yeah.
update, to-do list, some of our standing items.
Yeah. I think, right, we need to hear back, I guess. Well, I will say, it sounds like the Richmond Land Trust is gonna be,
Returning to us, they spoke with the Reeves. My understanding is they will return here with a draft easement or proposed easement for at some future meeting. And I think there was email, I forget the date, sometime in
so
November.
there, it sounds like they may be voting on the language of the easement on November the 2nd.
Mhm.
So you could, and they've asked to be put on the agenda for the next meeting, which
Okay.
would be the 5th.
If we had time, we could talk about how the water line service inventory is going with MSK.
Okay,
Okay,
Not like if nothing, we'll do it another
Yeah,
time, but that's
I'll
something.
put it on the list. It's a good.
Had on-
that's a
Good
good one.
follow up on
Yeah,
it,
It would be
yeah.
good to hear that. Any other comments?
move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we have a vote. All in favor, say aye.
This is Jay, I.
Aaron, I.
David, I.
All right.
Morgan, aye. Meeting adjourned.